Good morning. How are we doing today? My name is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to run through an advanced EV calculation from the SPR section of the Postflop workbook, show you how to make these kinds of calculations. We're going to run through page 136 together. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so beginning with the prompt on page 136, we're playing a 5-10 cash game. You open raise to 30, one player calls, button squeezes to 140 total, you 4-bet to 325 total, and only the button calls. You end up on this flop with ace-4 suited, you have $400 left, and you mash it into a 695 pot on jack 5-5. So, on the flop, you decide to go all in. For your remaining 400, you suspect they called your 4-bet with this range of hands, so 10s plus, ace-king, ace-queen suited, king-queen suited, and will only call your all-in when they have slow-played queens plus pre-flop, a flopped full house, or a flush draw. So what is your equity against this calling range? That's the first thing we're going to start with. So let's start by plugging everything into Flopzilla and go from there. So we have ace of spades, 4 of spades. Flop is jack of clubs, 5 of clubs, 5 of diamonds, good. And let's pull the range directly out of the answer key, so page 136, copy that, perfect, paste it in, excellent. So, setting up the filters appropriately in Flopzilla, let's put it all in. So we think they're going to always call with an overpair, we're always going to call with a full house, and they're always going to call with a flush draw. So like we talked about in the last video, this is your equity right now because this is in red. This means that it's all hands that were in the range before. So against this entire range, we have 19% equity. We see that right here, but we actually want just against the full houses, the overpairs, the flush draws. So we need to click that to green. That locks in all the selected hands. And now you notice that our equity drops down to 12%. So pop that in here and let's start rocking and rolling with the actual formula down below. So the section down below might look a little bit scary if you haven't done much work with advanced EV formulas before, and that's okay, we're going to run through it. So essentially, when we shove in this situation, there are 3 different things that can happen, right? We could get our opponent to fold right this moment, and we win the pot. We could have our opponent call, and we're going to win some of that, and that's one of the branches. And then the third branch is going to be when they call, and we end up losing the pot. So that's what we're factoring for down below. So the first thing we need to know is how often are they going to fold against our shove? Well, up here in Flopzilla, we saw that they were going to continue 49% of the time, which inherently means that the rest of the range, right, the other 51% is going to be folding. So what we want to do is start with the folding percentage, because that's how often they're going to fold. And then we know that if they're going to fold 51% of the time, they're going to continue that other 49% of the time. Again, all that's coming directly out of here. So plug in 51%, 49%, 49%. Excellent. Now, when they fold against our shove right this moment, we're picking up the pot uncontested. So that is that 695. Excellent. And then down below, we have 2 more things. So when they continue, how often are we going to win? How much do we win when that happens? And then when they continue, how often are we going to lose? And how much are we losing when that happens? So in this situation, we know that we're going to win 12% of the time. Cool. And if we're winning 12% of the time, because that's our equity, then inherently we're losing that other 88% of the time. Okay, not too tricky so far. And the only other numbers we need are the money numbers. So when they call and we win, how much are we winning? Well, we're winning the pot right this moment, so roughly 700 plus their $400 call, and that's going to be 1100 minus just a little bit, so what, 1095? And then when we shove and we lose, how much are we losing? Well, the money in the pot doesn't belong to us at that point. That belongs to the pot. So what we would lose at this point is our $400 shove. And that goes right here. And if you want to add currency signs to make things a little bit easier when you go back and track your stuff, no problem whatsoever. So the easiest way to solve all this is to use the advanced EV formula. The complex EV spreadsheet is very, very good for this, and it breaks everything down pretty simply. So just a couple numbers we need to input. First is the F percentage. How often are they folding? Well, we calculated that at 51%. Perfect. And you notice that automatically calculates the C because that's just 100 minus 51 gets us to that 49. The current pot right this moment is that 695. 695, excuse me. And then we need to plug in the last number. So when they call and we win, how much are we winning? We did that 1095. And how often are we winning that? 12%, because that's our equity. When we shove, they call and we lose, we're losing $400 and we're losing that 88%. Again, that automatically calculates because that's 100 minus the W. And all in all, that brings us to positive 246. Real quick, let's check the answer key and make sure that's right. Again, page 136, 12% equity, 246 on the shove. Excellent. If you scroll over to the right a little bit, you see all the variables broken down right there. So if you ever get confused, like what number are they using here, start with that. That can be very, very helpful. And of course, if you have any questions about this or, hey, I'm not getting that same number, always kind of slow down, go check your original FOBzilla inputs. Oftentimes there's going to be a slight issue there. Maybe you forgot to lock in this. Maybe you factored in equity for the F percentage by accident. Just take your time with it. It will be a little tricky if you're newer to this kind of stuff, but I promise you this kind of work is very, very helpful. And then if you want to go a step further, you can always do lots of different things like say, okay, what if they called with a different range of hands? What if they had a wider range of hands pre-flop, or we're folding a lot less, we're folding a lot more, you had different equity, you had a slightly different starting hand, right? What if you had ace king instead? You know, how does that factor in? And say we had 18% equity instead, what happens at that point, right? Is that worth a lot, or is that worth very little? One of the biggest things to really keep an eye on here is how often are they folding? What's that F percentage? The more often they're folding, the more you're picking up that dead pot uncontested, and that can be very, very lucrative. So keep all this stuff in mind, but now you at least have the process when it comes to doing the advanced EV calculations in the Postflop workbook. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, as always, good luck out there and happy grinding.